Merhabalar, ben Deniz Genç. Welcome to my podcast, The American Dream. In 30-minute conversations, we will explore journeys of successful Turkish professionals who moved from Turkey to the US and built remarkable careers. My goal is to inspire young people in Turkey who dream of pursuing similar paths abroad. My guest today is Professor Dr. Mehmet Toner, a pioneer in biomedical engineering and one of the world's leading researchers in microfluidics and medical innovation. He's a professor at Harvard Medical School and the founding director of BioMEMS Resource Center at Massachusetts General Hospital, where he leads groundbreaking work in areas like cancer diagnostics with microchips and organ preservation. Professor Tanner, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. It's truly an honor to have you. Before we dive into your journey, I'd like to start off with some quick icebreaker questions. Are you ready?
I am ready. Go for it.
Yes. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is being terrified of public speaking and 10 being you love public speaking, where would you place yourself?
Well, it changed. It was one early on in my academic life, and it's now 10. I'm very comfortable.
And what is one Turkish food you miss the most?
Oh, definitely döner kebab.
Yeah, and what is one surprising or even an amusing part of your American academic journey? Just very quickly.
Well, it's very open and supportive of
Yeah.
young people. I wasn't expecting that.
Mm. And what is one language barrier that you may have encountered in the US?
Not one. I didn't speak English. I
Yeah.
came from French background, so and Turkish, of course. So it was a big barrier.
And now let's dive into the questions. Now, can you describe a typical day in your lab and what kinds of problems are you and your team trying to solve right now?
Yeah, I mean, typical day, I travel a lot. So that part of my job is to travel, talk, and communicate with outside entities and generate funding. So a big portion of a scientist's job is to decide about the direction of the research and also to raise funds to do the research. And so but when I'm in my office, I usually meet with in smaller groups or larger groups with different people working in the lab and talk about their projects and help them with the problems and issues they have. So that's a big portion of it. And then another big portion goes to reviewing things, reviewing papers and grants and other things. So we do a lot of that kind of work. And then the other component is talking to collaborators and other project leaders. We have a lot of collaborations with multiple institutions all around the country. So it takes a lot of time to keep those relationships alive and up to date and move the projects forward.
Mhm. And how fast would you say is a typical project, or like what's the timeline on a typical project for you?
If you want to be a scientist, you better have patience.
Mhm.
I have projects that I'm still working on. It's been 40 years.
Mhm.
So some of them 5 years, it's never shorter than that, 10, 15 years. For example, the cancer project we started in 2000, so it's 25 years, but it evolves, it solves certain aspects and it moves in a different direction. It gets better, it moves into different areas, but it's it's a long process.
Mhm.
It's a journey. It's the
Yeah.
goal is to enjoy the journey, not the end point.
Yeah. And when did you first start thinking about moving to the US? Was it an early goal in your studies in Turkey, or did it happen more organically, like and quickly?
Yeah, I would say it wasn't an early goal. I didn't even
Mhm.
know, and it started in university. I went to Istanbul Technical
Yeah.
University, mechanical engineering. I studied there, and I had two mentors. They were one of them was from University of Michigan. One was at the time a senior postdoc at the university, but young faculty, and they really inspired me. I wasn't actually a very good student in middle school and high school. I became a very good student in college by virtue of just meeting these two guys, and they really inspired me towards science. So towards the end of my college years, they also advised me, or at least told me, that I should look into possibilities in US. So it was more in the later stage of my life, and it happened in a more organic way.
Mhm. And would you say the barrier of entry to to the biomedical area in the US is difficult for people pursuing a similar path from Turkey to the US?
Turkey to US, it's become more difficult since I would say September 11. It's become a little bit more difficult more recently too. And well, overall, you have to work very hard, and you need to be on top of your class. You need to do some special things that differentiate you from the rest of the applicants. The number of applicants have grown significantly since I was a student and I applied to MIT. I went to MIT for my doctoral studies after college. So it's definitely more competitive.
Mhm. And would you say the barrier of entry to biomedical engineering from mechanical engineering is also difficult, or is that like very similar? Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Biomedical engineering didn't exist when I came here. It was at the beginning of its uh, formation. So I consider myself probably one of the first or second generation biomedical engineers. Now it's very attractive field, and certainly, with AI, computer science, and biomedical healthcare, biomedical science, and also in engineering, surprisingly, mechanical engineering started doing very well because of some of your interest to robotics and nanotechnology. These are very big areas for future, and especially robotics. So it's not that difficult. And the beauty of American education, unlike Turkish education and many other countries, it's very rigid. Once you're a mechanical engineer, you cannot move easily during your even college years. Here, I believe average college student changes their major twice or three times at the least. So it's not that difficult. I did it. I was pure mechanical engineer. I turned into a biomedical engineer. I went to and took half of the medical courses with medical students. It was not easy, but it was doable. A lot of work, a lot of long nights.
Yeah. And I mean, looking back to your journey of like every single long night or like the university stages, was there a particular turning point or moment in your career that defined your path in biomedical engineering? Like, would you say like you knew that you wanted to be a biomedical engineer at some point after like a certain point?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it was a little bit different than that. I wanted always to become a surgeon
Mm.
and go to medical school, but in Turkey, there's a national exam that they place you, and so I wasn't able to. As I told you, I wasn't a very good student, so I didn't get into medical schools in Turkey. So, but that was, and then became a mechanical engineer. But I had this incredible uh, luck of meeting one of Turkish professors at Yale University at the time, applied mechanics professor at Yale University, was a graduate of my Istanbul Technical University. So I met with him one of the summers. Apparently, I don't remember. I must have told him that I always wanted to do healthcare. And then I got into Yale. He helped me, he was, and to do actually plasma physics and magnetohydrodynamics and I didn't, you know. And then I got into MIT too. So I called him. So that was my second time talking to him. I said, look, what do you recommend? Should I go to MIT or to Yale? So he told me, he said, Mehmet, when I spoke to you, you told me you wanted to get into medical school, but you didn't get in. There's a new thing happening at MIT called biomedical engineering. You should look into it. So I looked into it. I just loved it. So I said, okay, I'm going to MIT. So
Mm.
two messages I want to give it to young
Yeah.
people. One is I call him a mentor, but I only met him for 1 hour and one 10-minute phone call. But he was thinking for me. He didn't, he wasn't trying to enticed me to Yale because he was there. He was giving me an advice without being influenced by what from what he wants, but it was what I wanted, and he listened to me and gave me an advice that I never forget. I've never seen him again, but he has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, wow, that's hour-long phone call changed everything for you then. That's
Yeah,
pretty
it's a
immense,
very
yeah.
yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe I would have been more happier if I
Yeah.
did my hydrodynamics, but I'm quite
Yeah.
happy right now.
Yeah, and how did your transition from your education in Turkey in the technical institute, maybe under like, for example, you mentioned Professor Abdurrahman Kılıç to
Yes.
working at like one of the world's top biomedical institutes at MIT. Like, how would you speak on that transition?
Well, when I was at Istanbul Technical University, I worked in addition to, first of all, I did 74 courses in mechanical engineering. So I
Mm.
had an incredibly strong foundation. And so when I came to MIT, I passed the doctoral exams in 6 months. And because I got an amazing education at Istanbul Technical University. The other thing that was amazing that I got it there is that they put me on two different projects. One was uh, solar energy distribution for the entire country into Turkey and by seasons and months. So that required solving these very complex radiation equations. And so I worked with them, Dr. Professor Kılıç, to do that. And I learned about it. But that problem, that was in 1981, we published that. And as an undergraduate student, this is a major problem today we are still working on. They were such pioneers, and they got me into problems to create the future, not to do incremental work. So big leap, big ideas. The other project I worked on was computers were becoming just mainframe computers, and computers becoming popular and just developed in early 1980s. So I worked on with them on looking into how to cool computers. It's still one of the biggest problems for computers, especially mainframes, because we can't cool it, they overheat, it lowers the speed and all kinds of other issues. So I worked on two problems that were even today, 740 some years later, are so that was also it was this it gave me this amazing curiosity of working on problems that would create the future. And so with that background, I came to MIT. What was very different at MIT and United States is that it's an much more open-minded and supportive of young people. I felt I suddenly excelled more here. For example, I told you I didn't speak the language. I was in language school. At some point, I was learning more Spanish than English in the language school. So I went to the dean of admissions. I was conditionally accepted to MIT. I had to pass the TOEFL English exam with a translator. I asked a friend who spoke English. I said, come with me because I want to negotiate with the dean to let me start in the summer because I had good foundational background in math. I thought I could take two math courses and meet American friends and then, really
Yeah.
learn the language from, not in the language school, but at MIT by taking classes and meeting people. And so he told me yes. I took two courses, Advanced Math 1 and 2. Advanced Math 1, I registered. 2 required Advanced Math 1 is a prerequisite. So I didn't register, but I attended all the classes. And but not registered. I took the exams, quizzes, everything, and homework. And then I got a phone call at the end of the semester. And this is I passed the registration time, so I cannot add that course anymore. It passed the deadline. So the Hildebrand, who's the professor who wrote the textbook, who's teaching the course, called me and said, Mehmet, can you come to my office? I went to his office. I'm thinking he's going to throw me out of the country. It's like, I don't know, why is he calling me? And he says, Mehmet, you didn't register for the course. I said, yep, because I'm just taking course one and I couldn't do this one according to what the catalog said. He says, you know what, you got 100 in all the exams and homework, everything. I already called the department head. I registered you. I gave you an A. You don't have to take the final. This never happens in my good old home country. So the openness of that, supportiveness of this is something that is always remained with me. I really enjoy them.
And for like new coming MIT students, would you say this culture of helpness and openness has stayed for sure? Or yeah,
MIT is an extremely,
yeah,
extremely competitive school,
yeah,
especially at
yeah.
undergraduate. I think but it's an extremely wonderful place where people are in their own zone, doing their own thing, and everybody's doing some crazy stuff, and it's a fun place. I enjoyed my time at MIT. I always
Yeah.
like going to MIT. I still have a joint appointment at MIT, but my primary location is at Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School.
And nice. And what would you say is one skill set that helped you the most along your journey as well?
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I don't know if there's one skill set that I can point towards, but if I were to give an advice to young minds, and if, I would say a few things. One is curiosity is really the most important thing. And the reason why I find it very important, first of all, it keeps you very fresh. You keep reading, you keep learning. And it's once you start learning something, and sometimes people try to find their passion for too long. And it's like, if what if you can't find it? But if you're curious, you'll find your passion. Whatever you're doing, you do it so well that you start liking it, and as you like it, you do it even better. So it's a feedback loop. You keep getting you better and better. So my advice always to young minds: just be curious, just dig deeper into things, read about it, learn about it, be open-minded, be test your ideas, and so that's one area that's I think very important. The other thing that's very important, and it's in life. A lot of times we make our decisions with our head. We use our brain. Brain is good, but it's selfish. You have to use your heart too when you give decisions. So and I think that's very important to to make your decisions not just with your brain and not just with your heart either. I don't know if that's a very good, but the two together so that the journey will be much more interesting. It's sometimes with this new world order, GPS and grades and citations and all these things, it becomes so important that people become very competitive, and they only use their brain to make their decisions. And so having a good heart is as important as having a good head.
yeah, that's great advice for any field, actually. Yeah. And would you you've been behind some groundbreaking innovations such as like the microchip diagnostic and received awards in multiple of your innovations. What do you think your creativity and problem-solving mindset comes from exactly, and how would you achieve this mindset?
Uh, well, curiosity is part of
Yeah.
creativity. Interest in, when we go to the gym to work out and work all the muscles and this and that and legs, but the brain is a muscle too. So a part of the brain requires being interested in things other than science and art. Challenge your brain, push your brain to other things, music, opera, art, painting, whatever it is that interests. So I think a lot of the creativity comes from using parts of your brain that sometimes you don't work out as much. But the other thing is that when I came here, I really this supportive environment that I was in was very, very important for me to really build that foundation. And it's, for example, I'll give you a specific example. My doctoral thesis advisor here at MIT never defined a problem for me. Many people, they say that the professor gives them here's the project I want you to work on. I feel that amputates somebody intellectually because to be a good scientist and be creative, you need to have two skills. One is you need to define what problem to work on. The other one is this how to solve that problem. To me, solving the problem is a set of skills that's much easier because I can work, it's like a painting. I can give you a blank canvas. Picasso paints something and I paint something, they're not the same.
Yeah.
But we both, but if I give you what Picasso painted, you could find that, you could paint that. And so the definition of what problem to work on is, in my view, the most important job of a good scientist. And so I learned that from my advisor because he gave me such freedom to define the problem within the context of what the lab is expert on. Of course, I was in a bioengineering lab. I wasn't going to do geophysics. And but that to me was an incredible training that he gave me, which I didn't realize at the time. When I became a professor, I realized. So I tried to do the same with my own students. I don't want to give them very specific projects, just the general idea, but then let them figure it out. Because, as I say, I think if you don't do that, you're amputating your student intellectually.
Mhm. And
So
like
I was lucky. I had good
yeah.
mentors. I call them. I don't call them mentors actually. I call them angels.
Yeah. It's, guiding angels. Yeah. And like in this process of figuring it out, like I mean, you've published countless papers. How would you like describe where your ideas spawn in from? Like what's the process that helps you generate ideas and develop on ideas? Uh,
Well, it's certainly a lot of reading the
mhm.
material, and so that's certainly parts of it. The other one is I'm in a very interdisciplinary area. I work in all kinds of, very biological problem, very clinical problem, but also, I'm right now working with a brilliant graduate student who finished his thesis on building a liquid transistor.
Yeah, wow.
Uh, so the idea, the cross section of interface of different disciplines, it's so fluid. You learn from this, you learn from that, and you say, "Oh my God, I could do this." The ideas flow much better than when you're very disciplinary, which is they're both good. I'm not saying one is better than the other one, and you're really digging deep to understand one problem. I don't do that. I work on regenerative medicine, organ preservation, transplantation, cancer diagnostics, infectious diagnostics, cell therapy, and tissue engineering, organs on a chip. I get into subjects that I like, and then I try to define what's really a rate limiting step, and then go after that. And I don't also chase fates. Many people, I call it Me Too research, like something becomes so popular and everybody wants to do that. I usually go in the other direction.
What would you say are some of the toughest challenges you faced in your career, whether in research, funding, or adjusting to the US? And how did you push through these tough challenges, tough moments, you would say?
Yeah, I mean, tough moments, you can define it in different ways, but for the sake of this discussion, I'll call it failures.
Mhm.
and I have plenty of it. We don't have enough time to, we need another session for that. There's been many failures, more failures than success stories. So you don't get to where you are just by doing everything right and being perfect.
Yeah.
And so some of these failures were very challenging to overcome. And usually the way I deal with these issues, I tend not to look at I just, past is past. Okay, it happened. I can't change the past, but I can change the future. And so I learn from it, but I don't dwell on it too much. I don't cry about it too much. I don't get depressed about it too much. I just learned about it. I say, okay, it's another scar. It's a good learning. So let's move forward. So I don't really, I use the past as experience, but I don't let it control me.
Mm. And in like research paper sense, like when you're doing research, like is there like sometimes a failure that can set back the entire paper, the entire like the
Oh
whole
yeah,
operation you had planned?
of course, of course.
Yeah.
And
And
one time, a student of mine was doing his PhD, it wasn't working well. Nothing was going well, and suddenly something clicked, and everything. He comes to my office and he says, "Can I talk to you?" Sure. Can I close the door? Of course, you can close the door. And he says, "I am scared that I'm going to get scooped." What do you mean you're going to get scooped? Well, somebody, this thing is working so well now, somebody is going to take it away from me. I said, okay. Are you getting worried about getting scooped from somebody outside or in the lab? It says in the lab and outside. I said, in the lab, it won't happen because I control that. So let's stop worrying about that. But outside, I don't control. So I told them, where do you want to be? You can be in 3 different boxes in your life. One box, what you're working on, doesn't work and nobody cares about it. Box number 2, what you're working on works beautifully. It's just amazing, but nobody cares about it. And then there's the third box. What you're working on works so well, and everybody wants a piece. So I said, tell me which box you want to be in and give you my advice. He said, of course, the third box. Also, I said, okay, go back to the lab, start working. I don't know. Somebody's going to scoop you. It could happen. It happened in the past. Like I said, you don't look in the past, you look forward. You find another project. Yes, it happens very occasionally before we were, submitting a publication or a presentation on a major idea, somebody else published before us. There are lots of smart people in the world. So
yeah.
it still moves the world forward. So that's good.
Yeah. Think about it that way.
Yep.
Yeah. And you've spent many years adjusting to the US, but I mean, you obviously come from Turkey, like all the way until your university in Istanbul Technical Institute being in Turkey. In what ways have your Turkish background shaped the way you think, lead, or solve problems? And do you think this is like this uniqueness has helped you on your journey?
Uh, I am sure my cultural background had impact. I don't know if I can pinpoint to very specific things, but in Turkey, we love children and young people. I think is the family structure and everything is like that. And I think that influenced me also. That's why the minute you send me an email, I said, okay.
Yeah. Actually, you said okay in 3 minutes, which was
Yeah.
I was so shocked. It's amazing. Yeah.
And by the way, your
Yeah.
email to me was so well worded, so well written, and
Oh,
that I said, so that's because a young person is asking for a help. If I can, clearly I can't help everybody. I don't have that much time and power, but it's people help me, and I try to help other people as much as I can.
yeah,
So
that's
that's part
amazing.
of
Yeah.
the Turkish culture. I go back to Turkey 4 or 5 times a year, maybe 6 times a year, and do things at universities there. I work with young people there on some NGOs. I help lots of high school students who are trying to become. So I go to their leadership camps. I help develop them innovative products. So I do give back in that way, and I enjoy that. That comes from the Turkish culture. And so when I saw Americans also value young people, young minds, that that was I benefited from that Turkish culture in this environment.
Many young people in Turkey dream of studying or working abroad, especially in, recent times or like throughout
Yeah.
their lives. What advice would you give them on building a strong foundation, and like trying and like taking that first step?
Yeah, in the current system, to get to these top universities, and many of them come here, and many of them want to come here, is certainly you have to do at least two things very well.
Mhm.
Academically, you need to be very strong because you're going to compete with, I believe at Harvard University every year 3,000 valedictorian apply, and I believe we admit about 1,900 students. So, you need to excel academically. So there's no question about it. So make sure you do very good in coursework and do extra things in the, research and spend your summer meaningfully. And that's good. But also, extracurricular activity is very important. In the past, the expectations from students for extracurricular activities were more like doing sports or research things and whatnot. That has changed. We want to see a little bit more what I was telling you, heart. Are you doing things for other people? Are you working for volunteering for food distribution, whatever it is? You need to show that you're not only smart, but you have a big heart too.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's
And
almost becoming a requirement. And both for admissions at undergraduate and graduate level. I don't undergraduate, I don't, but at graduate level, I do admissions in many different programs, and we look at those kind of extracurricular activities.
what?
Meaningful, not just building CV. There's a lot of resume building, and people do things, but you need to show that you really did that because it's coming from your heart. You just wanted to have that experience.
Are there any other like characteristics that you think that shine in an application, or uh it's like you can see this characteristic very well and you can like see, okay, this is a really good application?
Authenticity, if the person is genuine about what they've done, and especially during the interviews, and it becomes very obvious
Mhm.
the difference between somebody who did it. And a little bit of that is fine. Everybody needs to build their resume a little bit. I'm not saying don't do
Mhm.
that completely, but it has to be genuine. Your interest in what you want to do has to be. If a lot of students come to me and they say, Dr. Toner, I want to be a professor like you. Dr. Toner, I want to be a professor. And they go a little bit further. I want to get a Nobel Prize. And I immediately tell them, the minute you put yourself in your goal in life, that's not a goal, that's your ego talking to you. Never have yourself in your own goal. You won't reach you won't go too far. You have a goal. I want to help people. I want to start this thing. You're not in it. It's a big goal. Within the journey, you will get there, and that will make you a better and bigger and whatever, and it will make the journey more satisfying. But don't put yourself in your goal. Don't say, I want to be president of a university. I want to be wealthy. I want to start a company. That's not a goal. But making a difference in people's life is a goal.
Mhm. And that's, yeah, a very good goal. And lastly, before I don't want to take up too much of your time, as someone at the intersection of engineering and medicine for the last countless years, how do you see this new innovation in AI transforming the biomedical and medical space in the next 10 years, 15 years?
Yeah, I
It's...
mean, my son studied biology undergraduate, and I advised him, and he listened to me. I said, take a year to do a master's in data science and machine learning. with a biology background, it wasn't easy because it's a lot of computer program software, all of that, but he did very well. So I think every young person starting their life, college, whatnot, and I would highly recommend learning AI. It doesn't mean that you need to write the codes, but you need to have an innate ability to understand what it is. And because it's going into everything, not just from banking to investment to how to figure out the wars to healthcare. It's in everything.
And do you, I mean, this is a really hard question, but do you see AI as a tool in the future, or like, do you think people should, I don't know, take precautions in this case, like especially in your area?
Well, like any new technology, is scope and magnitude.
Mhm.
That was true for computers. It was true when cars and trains were invented. There are a lot of ethical issues to deal with. And AI is certainly going to be one of those because
Yeah.
it's really easy to use it for ill-intended purposes. It's a good technology if it's used properly. So we will have a lot of regulations, I hope, to make sure the ethics of it is in place, and that's very important. Uh, but I'm not too scared. And the biggest enemy of AI is energy. We don't have enough energy in the world right now, and because it requires the same calculation brain can do with milliwatts, AI needs gigawatts. And so it's an extremely energy intense process. There are about 25 trillion tokens in the that AI ChatGPT accesses each time it does a search, and that takes a lot of energy to do that. But a person who's born has that much bytes or tokens go to their through their optical nerve to their brain in the first 4 years of the life.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
wow.
actually not that much information, but it takes a lot of energy. And so that's the biggest problem we have. And my biggest worry about that, of course, that's going to create ethical issues. Who accesses the existing energy? How are we going to access the existing energy? Who's going to benefit and who's going to be not benefiting from that? And that is not a simple question.
Mhm.
It
And
has, yeah.
uh, I would say like especially in the AI field, we've seen like Google use AI to predict the shape of proteins, which has been notoriously difficult in the biology space. Do you see any other possible innovations or continuation of AI in biology in the recent future, or like recent like developments you
Oh
can
yeah,
see?
of course. It's going to be in pretty much everything. In certainly in medicine, it started on diagnostic imaging is a good area where you can find features with AI that you couldn't otherwise. The fact that you can have all the background information from millions of patients, you could do your diagnosis better. And so it certainly in those areas in drug discovery, you could use AI to make the decisions. So it is absolutely growing so rapidly that, as you know, MIT, or you may not know, but for the first time in the last, whatever, some 50, 60 years, created a new college called College of Computing. They raised a significant amount of money and they built this new college. They have an engineering, electrical engineering and computer science department, but they also now have a College of Computing, and because of the importance of the subject matter. So it's here to stay. Every young person need to know something about it.
Well, Professor Toner, thank you so much for sharing your story and your wisdom with us today. Your journey from Istanbul to Harvard and your entire journey is a powerful reminder of your vision, persistence, and curiosity. And thank you for sharing your journey with our young Turkish listeners, hopefully, who will take inspiration from this. And yeah, thank you again.
I thank you for calling me or emailing me and making me part of this, and good luck to you. and hope to interact with you in the future.
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much.